Hi there, and welcome back to episode 4 of Live in 30. I'm so excited that you're here today with me on Facebook. Yes, this is episode 4 already. I'm really amazed that it's been going as well as it is, and it's a great experience, and I'd love to share that with people. But today, I'm diving into something that I get a lot of questions about, and it's about really great conversation starters. A lot of people like to network, and when they first get started in networking, it's really kind of uncomfortable to go to a networking event and you arrive and there's a lot of people there already and you really want to connect and you're not sure how to. So that's what today's episode is all about. I'm Laura Templeton with 30 Second Success. I help people develop their 30-second commercials for networking as well as for video. So if you like what you see on this episode today and you want to follow along or get our newsletter, please go to 30secondsuccess.com. Like us on social media. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram, sharing lots of great content, sharing lots of information from other folks too that support you in your networking and growing your business. That's what we're about here at 30 Second Success, giving you the words that really resonate with who you are and your ideal clients. So helping you to make those connections is really important. Whether you network in person or online really is going to depend on who you are, who you're trying to reach, and how comfortable you are when you're out in public. A great way to get comfortable is by having that perfect message that really expresses who you are from a place of confidence, from a place of clarity, and just giving you the words to connect with your audience. So it's clarity, connection, and confidence. That's what we help you with. So here today, we're going to be talking about great conversation starters. So if you're just joining in, and we appreciate those who are, thank you so much. And I really am glad you're here today. I know for a fact that sometimes when we get started with networking, we don't really know anyone. We show up at a networking event and there's no familiar faces there. Sometimes it can be a little bit intimidating to start a conversation or even to continue a conversation. What do you say? How do you get people engaged? That's the key element of really expressing those listening skills. Asking really great questions that inspire people to share information from their heart, information about who they are. So they start to get comfortable with you. And in that comfort, they start to trust you. And we all know that know, like, and trust is really important when it comes to giving referrals as well as doing business with one another. So today we're going to talk about some of those really great conversation starters. We're also going to be talking about how to break into a circle. You know what I mean when I'm talking about the circle. You know, that circle, that private circle where everybody's just kind of sticking to themselves, and you walk into a room and there's little pockets of people throughout the room and they all seem to be engaged in a conversation and they're closed off and not really open for you to just walk up and jump in. Well, I have some friends who have no problem with just walking up and jumping in. Personally, sometimes I get a little bit intimidated. You remember last week I talked about that whole introvert, ambivert, extrovert thing and how I can get a little bit overwhelmed. Well, sometimes when I'm not feeling great and things are just kind of like off kilter, or it's a new group and I'm still trying to figure out where I fit and if it's a good fit, I get a little intimidated by those groups. So, take it from somebody who's been networking for a really, really long time. It's natural. It's natural to be intimidated by, feeling closed off or left out. So a couple of suggestions I have will help you with that. But first, we're going to talk about this great conversation starting questions. A couple months, or actually a little while ago, probably about a year ago, I wrote a blog and it was all about conversation starters and breaking into those conversations and how important it is to have those conversations. Well, it got so much feedback and people loved it, and I had great responses and people requesting my list of questions that the following week I actually put my list of questions out there on my blog. So I'll make sure that I include the list of questions here for you, and I'll make sure that I post it so you can have access to it on the blog. So that'll be part. Once we have the recording out there, that just make sure that you look in the messaging part of it for the conversation list, that blog. That'll help you. So you'll have a great list of questions just to have as a backup. So you can use these questions in a couple ways. These questions are great for when you're at a networking event. They're also great for when you have those one-on-ones with people. Great conversation starters always really open doors, and just being able to bring an element of that authentic listening. So it's not just about asking the right questions, it's also about listening and turning on your listening skills, making sure that you're giving the person who's speaking your full attention. You know, if you ask them a question, you need to listen to the response, right? So that's what's really important about that authentic listening, and make sure that you are really engaged. So these questions really help. Some of the questions that I've come across, and if you some of your typical questions are more like, how did you get started? Where, tell me about your business. So what do you do? Those are all pretty typical questions. And we love, when we're engaging with somebody and, you ask them, oh, so what do you do? Right? And they get to tell you, like for me, it's, I help people develop their 30-second commercials for networking and for video. What traditionally would be the next question? So think about some of the follow-up questions when you're having a conversation. You need to be able to follow up with people. Make sure that you're asking the next great question. Think about it. So, for me, a lot of times when people tell me what they've done, I'll say, oh my gosh, how long have you been doing that? How many years have you been in business? What inspired you to start that business? What do you love about what you do? People really appreciate when you ask questions that are heartfelt. You want to tap into their emotions. What do they love about what they do? It's amazing to see when they start thinking about, what do I love about what I do? What do I love about helping people? And what do I bring into the audience and to the people that I serve? So those are some really great questions, and I have several more that are just thinking about business, and a lot of times I just kind of go offline and start saying, oh my gosh, are you from this area? Have you lived here all your life? Where are you originally from? How about your family? Or do you have kids, and what kind of sports are they into? Or, sometimes people are a little funny. So be careful when you ask about kids. Don't necessarily ask their ages. Ask about their family. Do they have family close by? Do they have children? Have they lived here all their lives? Or, and a lot of times people will just go into, no, I'm from the Midwest and all my family's back there, and it's just me and my wife here. We, transferred. Ask them what brought them to the area. That's another really great question. What brought them to the area? What brought them to this region, and why would they network here? So think about those great questions. Another thing is, what do you like about this networking group? How long have you been networking with these folks? I'm pretty new here. Tell me who you think would be a really good connection for me. Who's a really good referrer? Who is somebody who's really got their pulse on what's going on in the networking world and in the business world locally? Those are really great questions. That's also going to inspire them to ask you, well, it really depends. What kind of business do you have, and what kind of need do you have, and who can I connect you with? Those are some other really great questions. So as you can see, it becomes more natural when you start playing off that it's a conversation. It's starting the conversation. Just getting it going really matters. And then think about, what's the next great question? When they say something that really triggers and inspires you to respond, it'll start to flow very easily. You can also get really creative and just kind of, I love asking people off the wall questions, and I'll say, hey, I have a question that I don't ask everyone. Here's one for you. What do you like better, baseball or football? Now, and all of a sudden they're like, it's just kind of like the barriers start coming down. When you start asking simple questions, those fun questions, what's your favorite holiday? Christmas or Halloween? Be careful, be sensitive, because not everybody celebrates Christmas, not everybody celebrates Halloween, but they'll tell you that. But it's still a fun kind of conversation opener, so you can play with it. Don't overthink it. Don't overthink the politically correct thing. Just ask the questions, and they could come back and say, oh, I don't celebrate. Okay, so what do you celebrate? What are you into? Ask them that. You know, sometimes I've asked people, I've actually, one of my favorite questions to ask is, all right, if money was no object and you could have any car you wanted, what would it be? Sometimes it's really cool because they may already be driving that car. And other times they're going to give you a really great answer and you're like, oh my gosh, I never heard of that. You know, like what kind of car is that? You know, you'll find out who likes old school and who likes, you know, the new modern, you know, all the electronic gadgets. And it's really fun to ask those questions, you know, even if somebody is like really into muscle cars, it's always interesting. You know, I have a friend of mine who absolutely misses her. She had a Mustang when we were growing up, and it was the old original pony car. And somebody asked her one time what she would have. She goes, well, I already had it, but I'd like to have it again. So, you know, it got her thinking about, oh my gosh, I really want that car again. And she wound up, you know, like 2 years later going out and buying one because it really got her juices flowing. Like, oh my gosh, it got her excited. Like, oh, I could have that car again. So that was really fun for her. To think about it in those respects, you know, what are some of the other questions that you could have? You know, you could really get playful with it. You know, ask them what their favorite food is. You know, what's their favorite restaurant? Where do they like to eat? Do they like the food at the event that you're at? You know, that might be a good one to ask because, you know, especially if you haven't been there before. So these are all really great questions and you can get really creative with it. Again, I have a blog that has a list of questions and I'm sure there's lots of other questions out there, but just have fun with it. Get comfortable. You know, when you first meet someone, you just got to start breaking down those barriers. You know, ask them, you know, what do they recommend? Where do they recommend to, you know, go shopping? Where's their favorite place to shop locally? You know, do they take the train when they come into the city or do they drive into the city? What are their favorite things? Why do they like this meeting? Why do they like networking? You know, are they active online? What's their favorite social media site? Ask them questions that will get them talking and sharing. And again, it's all about breaking down those barriers and really having a conversation and listening to what they have to say. Don't be thinking about what you're going to say next. Conversations are about listening, authentic listening. The next question will come to you. You can always be silent for a second when they're done speaking. It's like, oh, and then think about the next question or allow them to ask you a question. It's okay to have a little bit of dead air rather than just jumping in with the next question that has no relevance to what they just said to you because you've been so busy thinking about what you're going to say next that you didn't listen. So be sure to put on your listening ears. You know, we have 2 ears, 1 mouth, enough said, right? So turn on your hearing and really be intentionally listening. And that's so powerful and so honoring and such a blessing to the person that you're engaging with. So be sure to do that. So the one thing, you know, I had touched on the whole idea of breaking into the circles. So everybody knows how it feels when you get to a networking group and people are chatting and they're having conversations and they're floating about the room and they're connecting with one another and sometimes you can feel left out or you can feel closed off. Like there might be a circle and it seems like they're having like whispered conversations. And, you know, so how do you break into those conversations? I have some friends who will literally just walk up and introduce themselves, tap somebody on the shoulder and say, hey, do you mind if I join the conversation? Simple way, right? Just walk up, mind if I join the conversation? Another thing you do is look for someone who's a little more open. You know, they're not fully closing into the circle. They're kind of standing a little bit sideways where they're a little more open. They might be looking a little bit more around the room. That's the person who's looking to invite people in. You know, that's the person who's looking to include other people. That's the person who's looking to see who's coming into the room that they can have another conversation with. So that's the person you want to gravitate to. That's another great way. The other tip I have for you, show up early. Be one of the first people there. It's a great way to start the conversation, right? So if you're already there and other people are coming in, invite them to join you. Be open. Invite them into the conversation. You be the one to keep the circle open. You be the one to include other people. That is such a great way to make connections and to keep from feeling closed out or closed off. Purpose to show up early. purpose to show up and include other people. Watch for people coming in the door. Invite them to join your circle. Have great conversations with the people that are there. Don't close off other people. Have a conversation. Say, hey, can we invite this person over? Ask, if you see somebody coming in, say, hey, excuse me, just 1 second. I love what you're saying. Keep that thought. I just want to invite this person over and introduce them and invite them to join our conversation. Is that okay? So you can always bring someone into the conversation. Be that person that everybody gravitates to because you do that. That's what happens. When you're the kind of person that engages other people in conversation, people will gravitate towards you. They'll actually look for you at the next meeting because you made them feel welcome, made them feel invited. So those are my tips for today. Make sure you understand how to start the conversation, how to keep the conversation going. Be sure to look for my blog to get the list of great conversation starters and engage other people in conversation. Don't be afraid to break into that circle. Tap someone on the shoulder. Excuse me, can I join this conversation? Or show up early and start the conversation yourself. I hope this Facebook Live in 30, has been beneficial to you. If you love what I share, make sure that you're connecting with me online. Sign up for our newsletter on 30secondsuccess.com. Follow us on social media and be sure to get your free copy of the follow-up success system that's on our website. So great having you here. So happy to see you. Make sure that you pop any questions that you have into the feed and I'll make sure that I answer them for you. And again, I'll be sure to include that blog link for you. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy your afternoon. And I look forward to seeing you next week on episode 5 here on Thursdays at 3:30 on Facebook Live. Have a good one.